how do you make the case? Bearing in mind that donors have lots of options and lots of responsibilities and have to make their own assessments. So how do you demonstrate the impact of this particular tool?
Strategic litigation, like we're talking about right now, can change people's lives, can change the lives of society for the better. And I think on that basis, it's worth supporting and funding for those bodies who want to see ordinary people, everyday lives transformed and changed through the use of law.
I think an important point for funders is to really have a holistic view on all the components that feed into social change.
I think the strongest argument to donors to invest in strategic litigation is that we have a democracy. And in the US, there are 3 branches of our government. And if we aren't using all 3 branches in our advocacy for social change, then we have failed as a democracy.
I think case studies can be really powerful, and if you can document why you've achieved the change or how you're approaching it, that can be powerful.
To point to the examples that we have already of how in fact strategic litigation can be incredibly cost effective depending on the jurisdiction, how it doesn't have to take as much time as people think it might take, and also even where it is taking this much time and it is costing this much money, to look at the impacts that it's having, where not only where there's a successful outcome, but just by the process of engaging in strategic litigation, in building up capability within social movements, in building up the capacities of community lawyers to understand these issues, that there is a value to a long-term investment there if we are truly committed to social justice and human rights.
It's not really about strategic litigation as much as strategic lawyering.
Law is not the answer to every problem that the world faces, but it's one part of a bigger picture.
Funding litigation means funding advocacy work, means funding campaign work.
I think the goal is to make founders feel confident that you can be involved with litigation, in our case, against the federal government, and still be respected by and have a good relationship with the powers that be.
Speaking to donors is always about telling powerful stories.
What I try to tell donors when I'm in this discussion with them is that we're talking about risky, unpopular work. So I think donors that are willing to fund litigation work are actually doing something really radical and interesting. If you look at the major civil rights battles in the US, for example, the courts played a huge role there. Courts have a really interesting and unique function in our societies, and donors are funding something that is extremely unique and can make a real impact.
With strategic impact litigation, even if you don't win, because if you do it the right way, you really are you're going to advance the ball, because you're going to educate a lot of people around this very important issue. You're going to bring information to policymakers, to grass-tops leaders. So almost no matter what, if you do this in a very intentional way, relying on policy and all of the various tools available to you, you're going to increase, knowledge around an issue, which is great. By investing in strategic litigation, you're not only investing in that case, but you're also investing in a judiciary that is learning about the issues, that's hearing about the plight of the poor, of the vulnerable, of those who are suffering the injustices in our community.
So strategic litigation, done strategically, talking to other people, sharing experiences, learning from successes and failures is one part of changing our world for the better, and I think that is worth investing in.